Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the ALS United Mid-Atlantic Goals podcast. I am Tony Heil, Executive Director with ALS United Mid-Atlantic, and if you've listened to the podcast in the past year, you've heard over 50 episodes where we've had different perspectives of people impacted by ALS. This includes people living with ALS, caregivers, researchers, our care staff and professionals, and also some people outside of the ALS community who are connected with us in some way, like people who are working on Parkinson's who may unite with us to support brain disease research and more funding for the NIH. We are stronger when we're working together and united in a purpose for advocacy, for our patients, and for research. And part of that United is involved with the leader of ALS United. His name is Jerry Dawson, and I've known Jerry for years now. He is the president and CEO of ALS United on a national level. He helps to guide some of our ideas, bring people together, get our name out there, go to conferences. He does so much, and he has to be exhausted from all the work he's doing. And I'm saying that nicely because he doesn't pay my salary, so it's not like I don't have to kiss up to him. He just is a great representative for our organization and for the ALS cause. So I'm excited to talk about his work today. So, Jerry, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So I can talk a little bit about how I know you, but tell me a little bit about when and how you first became involved with ALS as a cause.
Oh, wow, that's a long time ago. So I think now it's been about 26 years since I began working with this community. I began working with the ALS Association North Carolina chapter way back when, around 2000. And we were very small at that time and just doing everything that we could to meet the needs of the people living with ALS, which were tremendous, and they still are. And so I was the director of care services at that time, and then a couple of years later, they promoted me to be the executive director and then the CEO of that. And so I've been involved for a really long time, and then some things happened with the association, and I think we should probably talk about that a little bit, just for those that may not be aware of what happened there.
Yeah, I think what we can say is in 2023, right? I think it was we as members, we wanted to maintain our local identity, and we don't have ill will towards anyone working in the ALS community. We're still collaborating with people from the ALS Association on advocacy, but we went in one direction, they went in another nationalized direction, and some of those chapters became ALS United.
Right. And so, yeah, they had a little bit different vision for what the future looked like than we did. And so, and I would say our vision was more making sure that people are being taken care of at the local level with local care and support. And so when that happened, they asked me to come back and run the ALS United National Membership Organization. I think some people may be a little bit confused about who we are or what we do. The ALS United, the membership organization, as I say it. Some people think we're just a national organization, which is just top down. We have chapters. We don't have chapters. We have members. We have 15 members across the United States, which serve over half of the population of ALS in the United States. And like I said, ALS it's a really tough diagnosis. So we need to make sure that we're taking care of the people that are going through it. Our mission never really changed in terms of what we care about. It was always research, advocacy, care, and support. It's just how we deliver that care and support, I think, that really was the difference between what we became with ALS United and what we were with ALS Association, if that makes sense.
I started this by saying that I'm not kissing up to you, because you're not really my boss. But in a way, I'm kind of your boss, right? Because you respond to the members of ALS United.
That's right. And I appreciate you saying that because, rather than being the pyramid where all the direction coming down to, the staff of the members, really, if you think about it, we're sort of an upside down pyramid. And the everything we do as an organization is directed by our members. And that's one thing that really makes us unique. I'm not aware of any other organization that's really set up this way. Um, and that's one of the things I really love about the way we're structured is that um, no matter who you are, you could be any staff member working for any member organization around the country. And if you have a really good idea and you're sharing that with your peers, and that becomes a recommendation up to the rest of the group, then it can be approved and implemented very quickly. I think that goes to sort of what our governance structure looks like and how we make decisions, which I think is something we could talk about too. I think it's very important.
Yeah, we should do that. But I think that that upside down triangle, well, if I'm doing a visual, I'm not going to do it with my hands. I'm going to mess it up. But it's not even that the executive directors or even the boards are necessarily at the top of that upside down. It's really the patient community, whether it's patients or caregivers, who are at the top of that upside down triangle leading it, because now we are able to get more feedback from those who are living with ALS or lost someone to ALS or just impacted by it. And that's really driving our advocacy decisions, our research goals. It's becoming more democratic in that way. And a small d, just listening better to the ALS community.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to look at it. I think that's one thing that really sets us apart as as member organizations, feeding up to ALS United. Eh, we've always been very close to the people we serve. ALS is a horrible disease. It's not dry eye syndrome. This is a really terrible disease, and we need to bring all resources to bear. And so that's what our members do. They have many different programs to address those issues, and so we sort of like pull up beside of a person who's diagnosed with ALS because it's a terrible time in their life, and we need to make sure that we're there to help them through. It's very tough. It's not just on the patients; it's also tough on the family too, and we have to be there for them. So and I think that really gives us an advantage in knowing what people are going through because we hear about it in real time with our care services staff members all over the country. And so when they hear about struggles that people are having, whether it may be with anything, it could be insurance related, it could be anything financial related. Um, there are so many things. We can identify those things and see if there may be a trend happening with maybe it's regulations that are impacting their ability to get care and support. And then the members can raise that up through committees and we can address that nationally fairly quickly.
Yeah, it's just an email or text away. I can talk to Sarah in Georgia, or I can talk to Kristen in New York. One of our patients who's an advocate with us is doing a webinar with ALS Network in California. So we can be very connected and share that. We're really doing better being collaborative than necessarily competitive.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the thing. And what I really love about the way we're structured is we have I think there are around 20 different committees or working groups or chat groups that meet on a regular basis within the staffing of ALS United members. And so if something comes up in one of those meetings and it's a good idea, they can make a recommendation to the member executive advisory committee and that committee can look at it and go, hey, maybe we need some more information about what's going on or clarity, or maybe it's very clear and they just approve something, to move it along.
Yeah.
So what I really like about it is that we have 15 members. Some of them are very small and some of them are much larger. And it doesn't matter who you are or which member you're from, your voice is heard and it can be amplified. Um, so,
So you mentioned about our governance because people don't know how we make decisions or sometimes how that's focused because it's a different kind of organization in that way. Tell us about what that governance is and why it's important.
I like to say governance is the most important thing that you do. That's sort of the foundation for any organization. So making sure that you follow your governance and you have that foundation in place is very important. The way we're set up, we have 15 member organizations, and each member organization has one appointed representative to the board that I report to. And so that means that the 15 members have an equal voice in helping to determine what we do.
And it is really valuable because I know that like Rhode Island, clearly small. I think anyone can figure that one out by looking at a map. But they have really important things that they bring up that are helping or impacting them. And we are bigger, but I can learn from them and they can learn from me, and it's mutually beneficial.
Absolutely. Yes. And I would say also that it's a great culture too, because we do have members that are of different sizes and resources, but we do learn from one another, and we can see what maybe an organization may be dealing with in an area like Rhode Island, which I would say they may be small, but they're pretty mighty, and they always have done a really great job there. But our members help one another all the time. It's not just about what one member is doing and how great we are. I would say ego is not a part of the equation with ALS United. It's all about what can we do to help people living with ALS, and how can we make that work where we are and across the country, where other people are delivering the same types of care, maybe a little bit differently.
And speaking of not necessarily having an ego about working on this cause, we partner with a lot of other groups. Again, not necessarily always even ALS specific groups, because maybe there's some other alignment. You've helped to build some of these coalitions or keep people together and unite us, using a keyword. Tell us about how we've been working with other groups like MDA and other organizations.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And if we do one thing well, we need to make sure that we're completely aligned as much as possible between organizations serving the ALS community. So I guess a little over a year ago, I reached out to a few members of the ALS community, starting with, I think, Les Turner ALS Foundation, I Am ALS, invited in MDA, the ALS Association, In the Legacy, and we just started having open conversations, just talking about what we're working on and what we can do for the ALS community. And we have been meeting every 2 weeks since then. And it's a great thing because, as I said, we really owe it to the ALS community to be aligned as much as we can. We need to be speaking with one voice as much as we can, and advancing our shared priorities. So it's been going really well, and I would say, I'm very impressed with the staff from across the ALS community. Within ALS United, you led the advocacy committee for a long time, and now we have Allison Nadeau and Tiffany Card co-chairing that committee, and they help keep us on track with what we're seeing in states that we serve, and also at the federal level. And that's wonderful. But if that's all we talk about, then we're working in a silo, right? Mm-hmm. We don't want to be working in a silo. We want to be working alongside the other organizations to make sure we're pushing for the right things.
And some people might hear that and say, well, then why even have more than one ALS organization? But sometimes we may have a difference in priorities, or, we want to add some other thing to our advocacy or awareness portfolio, or our patients, like I said, it's coming from the patients and families down. They really might want to focus on a whole other topic. So we can respectfully, not necessarily disagree, but have different focuses time to time.
Yes, 100%, 100%. And I think it's important to keep those doors open and the conversation going between organizations, because something they may be hearing may be different than what we're hearing, or vice versa. So we can bring those different perspectives to the table and make sure that we're working together as much as we can. And I have those doors open with these organizations so that if something comes up, I can just pick up the phone and call. And we've had these conversations and said, you know what, if we're not aligned on something, let's talk about it. Let's understand why we're not, because there may be something that we're not quite understanding. It's better to listen than just assume you have all the right answers, because if you think you have all the right answers, chances are you probably don't.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There could be that some bill, House Bill 1822, which may not be a thing, and we are worried that it's going to give patient data away, and someone else says, no, we've done this, and we don't realize that. We can talk. So you talk about bringing together our leadership, and that's in various committees. So it's not just executive directors; it's care services directors, fundraising staff, research environment leaders. But I am new to the job of executive director, and we have some other newer executive directors that have joined us with different experiences. What would you give as tips for how to lead an organization like ours, whether it's mine or in Colorado? Just some advice for how we can be good leaders.
I think probably one of the most important things you can do is to try to find a mentor to begin with, someone that you really feel is doing a great job, and ask them to, be a support person for you, that you can go to them and ask questions that may come up, or bounce ideas off of. That's one of the first things I did when I became an executive director, and it really served me well. And so I think that's one thing. I think another thing is listening. Listen to people. Listen more than you talk, because a lot of times you can miss what's important. And I think one of the most important things that you can do is strategic planning. And that can be a very intimidating thing, especially as a new leader. But I can tell you, learn how to do it. Find someone who does it well, and if you can figure out how to implement that in your organization, and make sure you're hearing from all the people involved in your organization, all the people that you serve, and you incorporate all that into what's informing your plan to begin with, it's so important. It will help guide you and keep you on track, keep you mission focused, and will really make sure that you're successful. If you try to plan, or you just start chasing ideas, you're not going to be mission focused. You'll hit some of the things and do it well, but you really ought to create a strategic plan. It takes time to do it. It takes a lot of hard work, but once you have it finished, then you measure yourself against it. A lot of people will create a plan and never look at it again, and that's a huge mistake. You need to go back, and you should be looking at it on a regular basis. You should be reporting out on it on a quarterly basis, and that will keep you, on the right path as an organization.
Yeah, and I think it's also good to continue to be listening and evaluating those plans too, because obviously 4 years ago our plan would have been something very different, and with the way technology's changed or laws have changed, 4 years from now, we need to be able to have a focus and also be able to adapt to changing situations. And sometimes having that local small connection helps us be more adaptable.
Yeah, 100% agile. You have to be. It's agile planning, and things do change. And an idea that would have made sense last year could change altogether, and that happens all the time. And that's another reason why you need to be reporting on it, looking at it, reporting out, talking about it. If something's not working, you can identify that just by revisiting it all the time.
So revisiting things and things that have changed includes what you've seen in the ALS space. You've been around for 26 years in one way or another. A lot has changed in ALS research and care. From your experience, what do you think have been the biggest and most important developments for the ALS community in your time?
I would say the biggest thing would be maybe Qalsody, and ASO treatments. I think there's a lot of hope in that. Um, there's When I started, I tell people this all the time. When I started, there was very little happening in research. Very little. I mean, it was sad. And then of course the Ice Bucket Challenge came along, and all those dollars helped fund not only research but also attract more scientists into the field, and then we saw an explosion of research happening all over the world, and that has continued. To this day. I just got back from a scientific meeting at the Packard Center last week in Baltimore, and there were about 500 scientists. I think everyone in the room except for me was PhD, some MD, PhDs. I mean, the brain power in that room was incredible, and it was just rapid fire. This is what I'm working on. And they would have like 10, 15 minutes to talk, and they would answer questions in real time. It was really great to kind of see all of that happening. And what I can tell you is, ALS is, and I don't have to tell you this, ALS is a very difficult disease, and it's perplexing to scientists. But the amount of scientists working on this disease and in their little specialty area in their lab, working on a specific angle of a potential mechanism that could be causing ALS, it really is mind blowing. And we know that TDP-43 plays a big role, of course, in ALS, but we don't know what's causing that problem, with protein misfolding. And so I would say that we have the right people on it. And what really excites me the most right now is that not only do we have the right people working on it from all over the world, but all the knowledge from these studies that have been completed are being shared openly.
Mm.
And that's pretty remarkable, because people like to hold on to their data, right, and not share it. That's, at least historically, that's been the case. But now there's this collaboration attitude from scientists, and when they upload their data and make it open to other scientists, we can learn more, we can advance faster. And the most exciting piece to me is that AI is at a point now where you can upload all this data into the cloud. AI can read it. I mean, imagine if you were a scientist and you're trying to understand everything that's going on, everything that's ever been learned and replicated in science, and having a full understanding of all that. And that's a big ask. And to have AI at a time now that it can read all of that and start to formulate maybe some hypotheses that we can look at and go, hey, maybe we didn't quite follow that lead all the way through, or maybe here's a gap, that exists that we can work on and address. I really believe that we're on the cusp of some major breakthroughs, not just for ALS, but for all diseases.
I feel very positive too, and sometimes it's hard to feel that way and say that when you've been here for 15 years like myself, or 25 plus years like you. But if you're listening to this podcast or watching it, and you go back to the episode we had with Dr. Irene Rombel from BioCurie, she'll be at our Help and Hope event on April 9th, 2026. So if you're listening to this after that, then don't go back in time, but the video will be available. And there, she's talking about using their proprietary AI model to help with research. And it doesn't take over research, it enhances it. And that means that some investigational ideas and for brain diseases and research into brain diseases can go from being multi-million dollar endeavors and over 5, 10 years to really shortening that time and money that you need to do, so other firms, smaller firms even, can invest the time and money into it. Because right now, the Tony Jerry firm may only have a couple $100,000 to spend on research, and it might not be enough. But maybe now it's something where we can do some early investments in research because the costs have gone down because of the new technology. So that's really exciting that there's something that, again, when I got here, when you got here, that was just science fiction.
Right. Yeah. I think it's really important. And the other thing too is that I think AI will help us focus on the right things and not replicate things that or science that's already been studied, or maybe we just need to move on. So to me, that's the most exciting. That's what gives me the most hope that we're going to have, some significant breakthroughs coming up.
So that gives you the most hope for the future, which brings us to the future of ALS United. Where do you see us in 5 or 10 years? Like, what kind of things do you think are possible as an organization to serve our families 5 or 10 years from now?
I think what really, going back to what I said before, what really sets us apart is how we help people going through this disease to make sure they have what they need. I really think that will continue to be a cornerstone of what we do as a group of organizations, making sure that people going through this, whether they're the person diagnosed or their family members, have the support that they need. And so I think that's going to continue. I think that our advocacy and public policy will continue to be a big part of what we do. That's a huge part of what we do already. And one thing that we have just recently done is talking about strategic planning and kind of like deciding maybe that wasn't the right path. Maybe we should try something different. We did hire a lobbyist last year in December to help us with our federal priorities to make sure that we're all aligned, that we're efficient, that we're effective. And so that's been going really well. And we just launched our first edition of our advocacy newsletter, which lives on our website, alsunited.org, under About Us and Publications. You can read it there. And that will be coming out every month so that people can see what we're doing and what we're working on. I would say that we would continue to be leaders in public policy at the federal level and at the state level. And then, of course, research, making sure that we are funding the right science at the right time. And that means not necessarily creating a new research program or a scientific advisory board within ALS United, but looking to partner organizations like the Packard ALS Research Center. Our member, ALS Network, also has a research program which our members fund at a very high level, which focuses on innovation grants, and it's very exciting. So I think we just continue to stay mission focused and make sure that we're continuing to fund the research, and everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah, and I think for 5 or 10 or whatever years from now, hopefully sooner, as we get new therapies and new treatments for ALS, our mission may focus away from needing to find that treatment to how we get it to people. Or making sure that someone can afford it, that doctors are able to access it, that it's in your community, that you know where it is. So obviously, our goal is to fund a cure for ALS, or whatever that is, or a treatment, but it's also to make sure that anyone who needs it can get it. And I think and hope that we'll get there in the future soon.
Yeah, absolutely. So
now, before we end here, you have been leading ALS United for a couple of years now. There's a lot of really positive things from our communities. You don't have to pick out a member necessarily, but are there any stories or moments or things that have come up from this organization that you've seen that just some of your favorite things you've heard so far as part of ALS United?
I think probably it's hard to point to one single thing. It really is. I've thought about this a lot, but I think the big positive takeaway from the journey that we have taken since we separated and became ALS United is how we've come together. All the members have come together and supported one another, created this thing that we have that we're still figuring out exactly how it's going to work, but we have an amazing structure that allows every member to have their voice, and they're being heard, and there's so much respect between the members in our committees and the way we work, and then the way we collaborate with other organizations. It's hard to point to one thing and say, here's a story I think it's a success to have this model. This is unique, and it's working really well, and people feel like they're really a part of it. The culture is amazing, and as I said earlier, there's no ego in this. This is all about us working together to be more effective, more efficient, and to really deliver on what we owe the ALS community, and that is better support, pushing for the right priorities in Washington, and funding the right research. So
Yeah, I feel like we have more freedom and flexibility than ever before. And years ago, if I said we're going to, recognize ALS TDI, or I have a call with Les Turner Foundation, people might be very nervous about, what are we losing out of that? And instead of what are we losing, what are we gaining by building a better ALS community and connecting people together? So we are all about connections and collaboration to get us towards that goal. That is what the word united means. For us, you can visit our website at alsmidatlantic.org to learn about our work in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware, and how you can donate, get involved with our walks. And as Jerry said, to learn more about the whole ALS United community, go to alsunited.org. Thanks, Jerry, and I really look forward to, we'll be on a call in a couple minutes probably. Who knows?
yeah,
We'll see you probably later today.
Yeah, I'll see you in a couple minutes.
So we talk frequently. It is a patient-driven down or driven up environment. We are in constant communications to serve our mission and serve our families. Thank you so much, Jerry. I look forward to what we will accomplish together.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate you.